You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
Packers Talk.
Do you want to experience the thrill of a Packers game at Lambeau Field? If so, be sure to get your game tickets from the longtime trusted source in Wisconsin, Ticket King. Visit their locations in Milwaukee and Green Bay, or just go to their website, theticketking.com. Again, that's theticketking.com.
This is Titletown Sound.
Prepare yourself for overwhelming intelligence.
He's going to look like Gronk riding a unicorn carrying a lightsaber.
I know how toast works.
Clay Matthews, Squirrel Whisperer.
Your squirrel naming game is not strong.
The turd cheeseburger could come back.
If one of us wants to pee on it, sure.
I'm not bailing you out on that.
I was acting unprofessionally.
I'm just here to ruin things.
Episode 78 of Titletown Sound. This is the Ezra Johnson edition of the show, which of course means absolutely nothing, but hey, shout out Ezra Johnson, and anybody else named Ezra for that matter.
Nobody was
Bobbo,
better than Ezra.
Oh, for the love of crap. Joining Bobbo, that's me, on this episode is James Korsmo, who you just heard there, and Kristofco. Chris, you're here too, right?
I am. Did we just have our first third-person Bobbo reference?
The first one of many, yes.
Great.
And Jeremy's not here this week, so he can't stop me. On today's program...
He does edit the podcast, so I'm pretty sure he can stop you if he wants to.
Yeah, he doesn't listen to this. On today's program, Chris talks about slim, slimy snakes slithering silently. James asks if slim, slimy snakes can slither silently. And I wonder why I'm doing this to myself.
And all of us.
Good point. But first, let's talk about the game that was the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. First half, awesome. Second half, not quite as awesome. The big question we have to ask, is Aaron Rodgers fixed? And James, I'm going to throw that question to you first. It looked like he might be fixed, and then not. So what's the deal?
Well, I think that's really between him and his urologist.
I'm so glad he went there. That's why I gave it to you first.
I think that I don't think he was ever not completely there. I just think he needed to be reminded of what he can do and challenged. And I think he got that during the week after the Vikings game. And if his coach will take the handcuffs off him during certain parts of games, absolutely, I think he's fine. And I think he proved it in this first half. He came out and he put up huge numbers in 30 minutes and then was basically told to stand down. So, yeah, I think we're good from now on.
All right. Chris, what do you think?
So I do think that there's still some issues there. He certainly played really much better than he has in the past. But so I work in human resources, believe it or not, those of you listening. And we have an employee who's being difficult, who's not performing as well as they should, or you sit down with them, you have a coaching or you go over discipline with them, and you give them an action plan, you tell them how they can improve, and usually for the next 3-4 days to a week, they're pretty damn good because they know everybody's watching. You watch after a couple of weeks, and then inevitably, they go back to the old habits. So what I'm trying to get at with that long, overblown, drawn-out analogy is that I'll let you know in a few weeks after we see whether or not Rodgers goes back to those habits of throwing off his back foot, of bailing on the pocket too early. That's when we'll know if he's fixed. But what was encouraging is he certainly looks like he's capable of fixing himself. I was concerned about his lack of coachability. Well, he changed those things, and the fundamentals that were really the issue in the first half, he looked fantastic. He was stepping into throws. He was staying in the pocket. And we didn't see the same kind of jitters that we saw from the week previous that led to such a terrible game. I mean, there were elements of it at times, but overall it looked like he improved his fundamentals and his footwork quite a bit.
And he was smiling. That was the big thing I noticed.
That I don't think you can underestimate that. When I saw the smile, I was like, I don't think I've seen that in almost a year and a half. I don't know what we saw at all last year except for the Hail Mary. And you really didn't see him enjoying the game. So, that's a really good sign. And maybe I'm being overly hot take-ish, but the fact that he had that kind of smile during the same, when he was also improving his fundamentals, maybe he's realizing that he can, play a solid, strong game and be successful and have a good time and enjoy it. He wasn't miserable. That was nice to see.
Absolutely. I coach a couple of both my kids' youth football teams. I help out with them, and something that we preach to the kids every single week is you win when you're having fun, and you have fun when you win. And I think it holds true from age 7 through and the NFL. If you remember that you're there playing a game and you're having a good time and you're able to loosen up and not take everything as so seriously, it really opens your eyes up and it slows the game down. And I think that's what happened for him in the first half, is he kind of rediscovered how he could slow the game down for himself. And that's when he started playing back to the caliber that he can.
Indeed. And if anybody does know a good urologist, feel free to tweet at Titletown Sound.
Please don't. Please don't do that.
Yeah, no.
Oh, come on. You guys are no fun. Speaking of medical things, pulling the plug is the phrase that I've got in my notes here. McCarthy pulling the plug after halftime. Chris, I got to ask you, we had kind of that Jekyll and Hyde thing where the offense looked like absolute world beaters in the first half, and then the second half, they just kind of beat themselves up, I guess. What in the heck is the deal with that?
Well, and during the game, I made a lot of the conservative play call, the changing the play call, taking your foot off the gas, and I was really ticked at McCarthy for doing it because he has a history, or at least he's known for doing that, especially when the Packers get a big lead. But I'm a little bit torn. I know it got a lot closer than it should have. The reason I'm torn, though, is because the injuries were so vast. I'm pretty sure they pulled a guy out of the stands to play safety at one point. That I don't know that I can blame him as much. That if there was ever a time to kind of go conservative and try to preserve a lead, it might have been Sunday's game. Now, it turned out to do what we've seen it do in the past, and it lets the other team back in the game. But in this case, I can almost, but not completely excuse it, because really, I mean, who wasn't injured, especially on that defense? So, I understand it. I still really hate it. I just don't know if it's a lack of killer instinct or if there was a real reason behind it this time.
Yeah, good point. I mean, even just watching the game, I had a sprained earlobe. Kind of detracted my attention from the game a little bit. But, James, what are your thoughts?
First of all, my condolences, Bobbo. I really hope that heals up.
Oh, it's good now.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I think that anybody who read the recap this week that I wrote a nice long letter to Coach McCarthy, because I know for a fact that he wakes up Monday morning after games, and the first thing he does is he logs on to TitletownSoundoff.com and he looks up our articles. And so
it's just fact.
It is fact. It's a complete fact. So I wrote a letter in the recap, basically saying that I understand why they do it. There's a couple reasons. One that Chris touched on is the injury aspect. That we do have a lot of hurt people. Secondly, ever since the McCarthy and Thompson era started, they hold their cards so close to their chest that they're practically in their gut. And they don't want to put anything on film that doesn't have to be on film for anybody further down the line to be looking at. So they come out, they have a 31-10 lead, and they say, we're going to run our preseason offense. And it's going to be the vanilla. We're going to forget that we have Eddie Lacy. We're going to forget that we have all these weapons, and we're just going to see what we can do with the base. And then slowly but surely teams start climbing back in, especially when we have no secondary and our defense is struggling and they're on the field longer. But it's okay because now our lead is, we still have a lead, but it's 17. Oh, now it's 10. Okay, so now what are we going to do? Now it comes down to 4 minutes left in the game, and the other team is within a touchdown, and we have to have Aaron Rodgers running for his life to pick up a first down to seal the game. And to me, it's insanity. You see teams, Bill Belichick may win a game this week with a wide receiver as his quarterback. It's entirely possible. But we can't put a team away when we're up by 3 touchdowns at halftime. We can't keep them there. And we've seen it so many times. The game that I hate to even mention, but the NFC Championship game against the Seahawks, we had them same situation. The Packers had them right where they wanted them. Game was over until it wasn't. So McCarthy needs to figure out how to balance holding his cards to his chest and playing safe with not letting off the gas. Find a happy medium there, because one of these days it's going to bite him in the butt again.
I just, here's the thing. I don't understand what is the negative about keeping the offense revved up when you're up, 30-3 or 30-7. In what way is that dangerous? If something happens and there ends up being like a pick six, which Rodgers has done 4 times since Pop Warner, and you find yourself, okay, it's a little tighter of a game, then you play a normal game. I just don't see the downside to keeping the energy up, keeping the offense where it was in the first half, doing the same stuff that was working. It just doesn't make sense to me that you would change your plans so drastically when it was successful and we were so successful. I don't get it. I don't care if you score 60. This isn't college, well, I guess it's kind of encouraged in the college game. I don't care about that. Go do it. Score as many as you can. Just don't put us in a situation where it's a close game when it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and injuries, are going to happen whether you're playing aggressively or conservatively, because it's not a matter of just taking a knee. You still got to hand the ball to Eddie Lacy or Starks or let Aaron run around or do whatever, but still got a chance for injury regardless.
Exactly, and it actually, in my opinion, it put players at more risk for injury towards the end of the game, because now they're scrambling, knowing that there's 3.5 minutes left and it's 3rd down and 7 or 3rd and 8, and now we have to run a passing play, because if we run 2 yards and punt, then lo and behold, they have the ball with 3 minutes left. So now we have the franchise running around the pocket for 8 seconds and then taking off, and if he would have tore an ACL or something,
you bite your tongue.
I know. I'm sorry. What I meant to say was if he would have injured an eyelash, then
sprained an earlobe.
If you would have sprained Bobbo's earlobe, this would be a whole different conversation.
Not even an injury.
Oh, you're so insensitive, Chris. Yes, anyway, hopefully we will see some adjustments and a little more aggression there. I have a note from Jeremy, who said...
Wait, this isn't a correspondence school.
Yeah, but he's gonna edit himself with his voice into this if I don't say it, so... It's either hear me now or hear him later. He said, more slants. Must have more slants. And I kind of agree. I'd like to see more slants.
Well, they did in the first half. They did it a lot. They did it masterfully. They used the center of the field, and they found the soft spots in the zone. And I thought they did a fantastic job of doing exactly what they hadn't done the week before. And Jordy ended up with the 45, 49-yard play on a slant. They did a great job of doing that. Of shocker, exploiting their strengths and the opposition's weaknesses. And it really worked. And again, that was another encouraging thing about the game, that instead of waiting until halfway through the second half, like the game against the Vikings, we actually attacked the middle of the field at times, and the offense just hummed. So I felt like the play calling, let's ignore the second half for a bit. The play calling in the first half was pretty terrific, and it was that up tempo but controlled offense, and looked like it was capable of going off at any time, and a couple of times it did. But for a pass interference call, Rodgers probably, or pass interference itself, Rodgers probably has a huge touchdown pass. Jared Cook was held like crazy. It wasn't even called on the one, and I forget what the down and distance was, but there was a play right near the end zone, and Cook was held like, and it should have been called, and it wasn't, and it probably would have been a touchdown had they not been held. So I was excited to see the offense moving the way it was and working the middle of the field. I thought that was another positive sign.
Absolutely. The first half play calling and execution was it was everything that we'd been clamoring for. It was perfect. It was great. And I don't even look at the second half as to me, the second half is irrelevant. It's not even critiquable because they weren't trying. It's kind of like, when I play the memory game against my kids and I've won 6 games in a row, the 7th game I'm not even trying, so don't even bother to look at it.
Are you going to raise soft kids? No, you put them into the turf.
Look, the 7th time, I'm just tired at that point.
That's what he says now. But anyway. Want to turn to the defensive side of the football a little bit. And James, I think you mentioned the secondary. This was supposed to be a strength of the defense. And it seems like this is maybe a weakness, if not the weakness right now. So I guess your general thoughts about our young secondary.
The Minnesota game, I think, was kind of a template on how to get to Demarius Randall, and that's basically just get him one-on-one with somebody who's fast and have him run deep, and he has difficulty tracking the ball. He's not at his best. His best position is not as an outside one-on-one cornerback. He's not a Darrelle Revis or somebody of that, a Patrick Peterson, somebody of that caliber. He works best when he has solid safety help up top and other people to help him out. He's a really good piece of a puzzle, but he's not the most important piece. And I think with Sam Shields out, that really, really hurts the Packers secondary because he's smart and he's fast, he's talented and athletic, and he really opens things up to let guys fly around and make plays. I think for me, another troubling issue is where was Clinton Dix? You never heard his name called at all.
Well, and for me, I'm going to cut in on this one because I think no Morgan Burnett, having him out as well, definitely impacts Clinton Dix's game and the entire secondary. You essentially have 50% of your starting secondary were out this week. That's going to affect how others play too, because like you said, they're kind of forced into roles that are not their strong suit. So I think that's why you didn't see Clinton Dix making plays and why the secondary really struggled. Now, I'm not going to say they're A+ if they're all healthy, but they're certainly a lot stronger than what we saw. And all of those injuries are going to impact just about every player because people have to shift around again, cover places they're not comfortable with, they're not supposed to, and it'll impact every aspect of the pass defense.
Yeah, and Jeremy has a note here too. Can't roam free as much when Burnett's not in there, and Clinton Dix, when he can just roam wherever. I want to say wherever the buffalo roams, but I don't know what that would mean. But wherever the football seems to be taking him, he seems to be less effective.
Right, he's a Nick Collins or Charles Woodson type. Like, he can cover people if he has to, but he does his best work when he's just able to track the ball down. It's hard for him to do that when he has to cover for other people.
And on that note, and that sound effect,
that was no sound effect. That was reality. Delicious reality.
We'll find out what Chris is drinking in just a moment, but I want to end on an uplifting note here. Defensively, run defense is still looking tremendous. Still not a lot of yards being given up there. So, major credit to the defense for that aspect of things. And Chris, I'll throw it to you first. What do you attribute the success against the run so far?
Well, first of all, to understand, this is not just a good run defense right now. And again, it's only through 3 games, but this is not just a good run defense. It's a historically good run defense at this point.
It is awesome.
On 100, they've given up 128 yards on 71 rushes, 1.8 yards per rush average. It is the best in the NFL right now, and second is the Giants with 3.18 yards per carry per rush. So but going back to I think 1923 when the NFL started keeping rushing records, it is the best performance a Packers team has had. Right now, like I said, right now it is historically good. It doesn't mean it's going to hold up the entire year, but they sure look like monsters out there. And I would say that the defensive front has been unusually strong. They've really been able to catch guys in the backfield, drop them for losses. Mike Daniels is a friggin' beast. He manhandles people. I mean, he is incredible. Whatever they're paying him, and I don't remember his contract, I don't care. It's a steal. He is one of the most underrated players in the NFL right now. Even if he's not underrated, he's that good. And I think he's been a huge piece of this run defense being successful. But also, I think we've been surprised by the linebacker play. We all thought, I shouldn't say we. I should say I thought coming into this year that the liability would be the run defense with no B.J. Raji, with no experienced inside linebackers, essentially, that they would really have a lot of struggles. They haven't. I don't think it's a fluke after 3 games that they're this good. And once we get this, that's why I do believe that once we get this, the secondary shored up, everybody gets a little bit healthier. This is a very good defense, and they're going to make a difference, especially when when the weather turns a bit colder.
James, your thoughts?
I agree with everything Chris just said, which kills my soul. But Mike Daniels, there was a play, and I've seen it on Twitter in a few places, but there was a play the game against Detroit where it was like first or second and goal from I think it was the Detroit.
Yes, I know exactly the play you're talking about.
And it was a trap play, and so Detroit's guard pulls. Mike Daniels takes his man and another guy, drives them both 4 yards deep into the backfield, into the pulling guard, knocks them all into the ball carrier, and then tackles the ball carrier.
He literally moves 3 dudes into a 4th dude and then tackles said 4th dude.
It was... I've watched it probably 50 times. I can't stop. It's amazing. The guy, he's just beyond what I think anybody had thought he was going to be. So I sure hope that continues. The inside linebackers have been great. When he's played, Morgan Burnett has done a fantastic job in his new hybrid safety linebacker thing that he does. And the outside linebackers, Nick Perry gets in the backfield and he flies to the ball. It's been such a fun 3 games to watch those guys. Nick Perry especially, because of his history and how I've ragged on him so hard about being injured and kind of only given half effort when he isn't injured. And then this year he's just turned the page and he's been amazing.
He's just out there slashing throats.
He really is, with both hands, ambidextrously. Slashing throats. By the way, that was the most... the NFL is so annoying. But anyway...
You know what? Hold on. I'm going to defend, because there was a lot of talk on Twitter about, well, it's a dumb penalty. I'm going to defend the NFL on this one and here's why. They made it a clear rule. It's a rule. It's not like the throat slash adds joy to the game. It doesn't have any functionality. So you know what? Follow the damn rules. He's lucky to get 30 yards in penalties for the double throat slash.
And they were good slashes, in fairness, too. Good form.
Good clean slashes, yeah.
Clean slashes.
They were nice slashing.
All right, on that note, we're going to slash into the show with a break, and then we'll be back with your Twitter questions in just a few seconds. First, we have a stunningly gorgeous voice to listen to during this break. So stick around, we'll be right back. Who's looking for Packers tickets? I know I am.
Right now at TicketKing.com, you can get an additional 10% off when you use the promo code PackersTalk. That's right, go to TicketKing.com and use the promo code PackersTalk, it's one word, to get a discount to see the team you love. Well, it's time to tell you a little bit about our homies at What's the Score, the sports news quiz again. On What's the Score, they test the knowledge of panelists and listeners alike, asking questions about statistics, recent events, and those memorable quotes we seem to be hearing just about every week now from the world of sports. This past week's episode of What's the Score featured two guys fighting it out at the top of the WTS leaderboard, Ian DeMars and the ever-lovable Dan Pfeiffer from WOKY The Big 920 and Marquette University Athletics, and, well, he's a voice just about everywhere these days. Upcoming shows of What's the Score are slated to include Mr. Pfeiffer, Armin Sarian, also from 920, and there's some other excitement coming down the bend with October's shows as well. To check out What's the Score, you can go to their website, WTSSportsquiz.com. You can also check them out on Spreaker.com, iTunes, and very soon you will be able to find them on the iHeartRadio app. And by all means, please consider signing up to be a contestant on the show. Titletown Sound listeners would do pretty well on there, I'm guessing. Now I'm going to toss it back to the handsomest member of the Titletown Sound crew. You know who you are.
Why, thank you, commercial voice. That's so nice of you. It's time for Twitter questions. You can tweet at us any old time you want at Titletown Sound, spelled just like it sounds, more or less. And our first one here is from Bruno Gabi Simos. There's a few names here I'm probably going to mispronounce because I do it every week, but I'll do my best. Bruno at TX_GOBBI says, what do you think is the problem with our secondary? Lack of quality, too many mental mistakes, or Capers' lack of adjustments? James, which of those three are you going to go with?
Yes. No, it's... I think the talent's there. The talent is there. There's not a lack of talent. It's young talent, and it's inexperienced talent, and when you don't have veterans out there like Sam Shields and Morgan Burnett to kind of lead them around the field and say, look, this is how we do things, and free them up to be the players that they're meant to be, as opposed to trying to do more than they're supposed to, that's a big deal. The big play this past game, there was two of them. Demarius Randall gave up a long one, but Josh Hawkins gave up the other one, and that was just a silly play because that was the biggest rookie mistake play, I think, of the season so far, where he falls down, the ball's caught, and then he just stays on the ground because he thinks he's going to run out of bounds. And then the next thing you know, he's in the end zone. So with experience and time, I fully expect them to get better. They're going to gel. It's like cheesecake.
Oh, cheesecake.
I think one name in your answer kind of reveals my answer, and that's Josh Hawkins. Who? Is his name Josh, by the way, first name?
I would have
I'm not fact-checking. I just have no idea because it's a guy that no one knows. And I'm exaggerating a bit, but
That's a good point.
My point is that it's injuries right now. We can't look. I know Dom Capers and his awful comb-over are really fun to blame, but it's not Dom Capers' fault at this point. When Sam Shields and Morgan Burnett are both out, you're working with, glue and bubble gum and duct tape, and you're hoping to keep the secondary stuck together. There's no way we can blame the coaching staff on that one. Yeah, there were some obvious mistakes made, but I don't think it's that, they didn't coach him up well enough, and that's why he laid on the ground and watched the guy waltz into the end zone. It was a poor play. It was a rookie mistake, and that rookie mistake happened because the rookie was on the field, and the rookie was only on the field because the injuries were so deep this weekend. So, yeah, you need to have some depth at cornerback, but I think I said a couple weeks ago, everyone is deep at a position until their number one goes down. The Packers are deep at wide receiver until Jordy Nelson goes down last year as an example. You're deep at whatever position, then your number one goes down and suddenly you're not so deep and everyone is shocked. But that's just the way it works. So I don't want to blame any of those things. I'll go off the board and go with injury. That's the real problem.
Before we go any further, I need a minute because you said that Dom Capers has a comb over. I don't...
Alleged.
I don't see it.
He does have a beautiful coif.
And that is your spelling word for the day, listeners. Coif.
Be careful how you spell that.
Please do. Yeah, don't put that into Google.
Watch your vowels, people.
Yeah. This safe search on, please, for goodness sakes. Next tweet is from at GM Gall. Guillermo, I believe, Gall. Will the play calling continue to stall us in the final quarters? James, I will throw that one to you again.
I don't know. That's the thing, is that I honestly don't know. I guess it's going to have to come down to where are we at? Do the Packers have a 30-point lead, or are they behind by 3? I don't know. I'm convinced that McCarthy has just 2 play sheets, one for when they have the lead and one for when they don't, and the one that he uses when they have the lead has 2 sides on it, and one is 23 dive and the other one is, everything else. So I have to think that as the season goes on, he's going to loosen it up a little bit, but I honestly don't know. That was a long way to get to that answer, but
basically you're saying like he's got 2 playbooks. He's got one that's out of like the most recent Madden video game, and one that's out of Tecmo Super Bowl, where it's 4 plays, and no Bo Jackson.
Oh well, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, I can't go with an I don't know. Will it continue? I don't think so. I think, again, an injury had a lot to do with it, and they overcompensated in the play calling. So I'm hoping we'll be a little bit bolder in the future. And the one thing that this might have done is given a wake-up call that, even a 30-point lead in the NFL, and truly it isn't safe. And it just might be enough that it's an excuse to kind of run up the score on some other opponents if they get the chance and not worry about it. I surely hope that this is not going to rear its ugly head again, but I do hope we have more 30-point leads.
That would be nice. I got to be negative. I think it is going to stall us again at some point before too long. Probably not this coming week, though. I'd be willing to go so far as to say that. Never mind the fact we don't have a game. We have another tricky name here, Rusty.
Wiser.
And sure, let's go with that. When Demetri Goodson comes off suspension and Shields is still out, do the Packers cut him, or does he mysteriously disappear? Chris, what do you think?
So who's the him? I don't think we're cutting Shields, right?
Presuming he means cutting Demetri Goodson.
I don't know what. I have no idea what they're going to do. I don't know. I wish I had better insight. But when's his suspension over? Is it a 4-game suspension?
I
believe so. Yeah.
I mean, it all depends on injuries at that point, really. What they're going to do, who they're going to move, so they may very well have room for him by then. Who knows?
Could depend if another injury crops up too. So, James, Goodson gets cut or not?
No, I don't think. I don't think he does.
I really can't. I can't see it, but who the hell knows?
Yeah, I mean, stranger things have happened. But I can't see it happening, especially now that the secondary's kind of being exposed a little bit. I think having that depth there will be something that Thompson and McCarthy want to have.
All right, one more Twitter question from William at Milltown Bucky. Has a couple of questions, actually. We'll start with this one. Jordy Nelson, hero or hero? It's lowercase, and then it's all caps. So, Chris, Jordy Nelson, hero or hero?
Hero.
James, what do you think?
Oh, what were my options again?
Your options were chicken or fish.
Jordy Nelson, at least thus far through the season, has been a hero.
That's strange. James never has the fish at home.
Don't call me Shirley.
And that's been your obscure reference of the day.
But a good one. I always enjoy those. I also like the fact that I'm not the one that did it this time. His second question from at Milltown Bucky. Someone really needs to address Packers wearing white after Labor Day. SMH. Well, I think we got bad news on that, don't we, Chris? We got those.
Well, first of all, I agree. And this is what I really appreciate is that our followers are fashion forward. They understand societal norms, and they realize that the Packers wearing white, especially all white, with the Color Rush uniforms, it's gauche. No one is willing to address these facts. I mean, it's unacceptable in this day and age to be so clueless when it comes to fashion.
I concur. James, I think personally a short summer frock would be much more befitting of the Packers. What do you think?
I think that there's a terrible lack of ascots on the field at any given time. There's no ascots. There's no Dickies. There's no culottes. We're sorely lacking in our area of dressing each other.
And the ascot just says, I'm pretentious and better than you, but also able to wipe my face at any given time.
It's true. It's a grown-up bib. I think Aaron Rodgers should come out next week with a monocle.
Yes.
Like the Monopoly guy.
How the hell do you play against a quarterback in a monocle? That's intimidation is what that is.
It is. It's cerebral. He's going to dissect you.
Or go to the opera. One of the two.
What's your guys' take on culottes?
I don't know what a culotte is.
I don't either. James?
I plead the fifth.
Okay. Well, those are plenty more words that you can Google, and please be careful when you spell them for the love of everything good. That's it for Twitter questions this week. I do have one other question I want to throw at you guys, though. If you have one person that you can go to save the world, are you going to go with Ripper, or are you going to go with Mike Daniels? So we've had some Mike Daniels love on the show. I'm curious. James, who would you go with?
I'm going with Daniels because I would, as I wrote this weekend, I would follow that man into the fiery pits of hell, and I know that he would lead me there and out safely.
I'm just thankful that Jeremy doesn't actually listen to these shows when he's not on, but it's gotta be Mike Daniels. I mean, he could first of all carry you to safety in the palm of his gigantic hand, and then defeat all of your foes probably in one or two punches. The man is friggin' nasty, and we're very lucky. Like I said, we're very lucky the contract that he signed because he's a beast, and he would lead you to freedom. That's what he would do.
All right. Good answers. On that note, normally we would be playing True False at this point in the show.
True.
We don't have a game. Thank you. We, of course, don't have a game, so therefore we don't have much to ask for True False. But for funsies, I do have one for you. I'll give you in a moment. Last week, Chris and I were 4-2 in True False. James and Jeremy were 3-3. So we now stand at 8-8. The three of us are all 8-8 right now.
And what's Jeremy?
Jeremy is 7-9.
Oh, that's a shame.
Aww.
Yeah.
It's like Jeremy's Jeff Fisher.
Oh.
Wow.
Start growing out that porn stash there, Jeremy.
And Jeremy getting out the bleep machine. Okay. You're going to need it in the next 2 minutes, Jeremy. I'm telling you. So I do have a true-false question for you. Off the record, this will not count, but I have to ask a true-false question. So here we are, true, false. Bobbo will tweet at Titletown Sound favorite Katie Nolan within the next week. Chris, true or false?
If my dates are correct, the restraining order expired a couple days ago. As a result, I'll say the answer is true.
Good choice. James?
I think you're doing it right now, so I'm going to go ahead and say true.
I'm doing the best I can to not touch the computer right now because everything's recording nicely, and I don't want to screw that up. But I'm I'm going to say true to that as well. On that note, normally this is where we would play the game Spread 'em.
All right, hands on the hood and spread them.
Chris is leading the way with a 2-1 record. The rest of us on the show are 1-2, and I believe Twitter is currently 0-3, according to what I understand.
You homers always picking the Packers.
Yeah, so I don't mind if you guys go 0-3 because builds our egos up. And I certainly don't have a big enough ego, that's for sure. So, on that note, though, I do have to ask you some sort of a question dealing with odds or over-under, something like that. So I'm going to give you this one. Number of times I will tweet at Katie Nolan in the next week. Line is 4.5. Chris, over or under?
You are one creepy bastard. I'll take over.
Again, wise choice. James?
It all depends on when the cops show up. I have to say over, though, because you can tweet pretty fast when you get tweeting at her.
I can write about 60 words per minute when motivated, so there you go. And I will, of course, say not just over, but way over. And on that note, before the police arrive, it's about time to wrap the show up. So since Jeremy's not here, I guess I should probably do that. Want to remind you guys to give a look-see to the website, TitletownSoundoff.com. See all the swell stuff we have on there. James has got that piece on how Rodgers got his groove back, isn't that right?
That is right.
Yeah, because I'm paying attention. We also have a voicemail.
I didn't even know you could read.
Hey, I read and talk real good like now. We also have a voicemail number. Chris, you have the number for that by chance?
Oh, yeah. Hold on. I have it right at my fingertips. No need to vamp at all. No, hold on. That's Alejandro's number.
Let me just double check at Katie Nolan.
Okay, here we go. I'm sure Jeremy will clean that up in the post. The TTSO hotline is 920-445-8876. Please call literally at any time. Like, you're bored, you need homework help, you're all alone, you're drunk. Those are all good times. Now, no one will answer to give you that help you seek, but we would like you to leave a message, and we'll play some on the podcast or during the week or just in the offices to amuse ourselves. But it is a lot of fun. Halftime is a great time to call, especially if you're feeling overreactionary. Good time.
Indeed. And if you do need homework help and it can wait for a week, we could totally answer it on the show.
Absolutely. Maybe it's a time for a new segment.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that sounds great. All right. Also, we should mention Twitter. We'd like to continue hearing from you guys if you don't want to call us or you don't have a phone or something. But you have that tweeting machine thing that all the kids have these days. At Titletown Sound. We'll get you to the website where we're all going to read that at some point. You can also tweet at and follow us all individually if you're crazy that way. That's our Bobbo. Chris is
TTSO_Chris.
And James is, dramatic pause,
at JK sub 20.
Fantastic. And James, do you have anything you want to add before we sign off?
I have two things I'd like to add, if you don't mind. First of all, I want to say get well soon to J.J. Watt. The league is going to not be nearly as gritty without you. If you need me to rub some liniment on your skin to keep it moist, I will do so. But please take care of yourself. The other thing that I need to say right now is anti-disestablishmentarianism.
Okay. Very nice, Travis. Chris, do you have any final words for this week?
2 things, yes. 1, please go to iTunes and rate us and give us a review. It helps us to be more visible to other users. So if you want to spread this like a disease, however you view our podcast, just give us a review, give us a rating on iTunes. It really does help. Makes us easier to find for other fans. And then the second thing is good night and get well, Prince Janice.
Yes. As I've said before, there's only so much we can do to expose ourselves. We need your help. That just leaves me to remind everybody, don't forget to pet your cat. And that's it. That's all I've got to say. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name.